Sexton. What do they have on us?
A few things. One is that they're the least bad alternative. That's what they've been holding out for a long time. Most people would probably put that secondary to a whole lot of oil, but those are really inextricably linked because they can have a whole lot of oil. Iran has a whole lot of oil, but if you had the crazier crazies in charge over there, that would be a worse situation. So it's a lot of oil, and we're better than the guys that would take over if we weren't the ones in charge. How does that play out for what we're talking about with 9/11 and the hijackers? We had to work with them, and so we were willing to turn a blind eye to certain stuff.
But are we still? I mean, see here, you know how conspiracy theories begin? Conspiracy theories begin when you have a commission that goes behind closed doors and they come up with a report, and page after page after page is just nothing but black marks across it, just saying you can't read this. So nobody knows what the truth is, and so people will fill in all of that stuff.
Yeah, it's very hard because a lot of the redactions, especially when you're talking about 9/11, the run-up to 9/11, the redactions are a result of the government trying to avoid embarrassment in many cases. So the things that are so glaringly obvious that it's not, oh, we were stovepiped with regard to intelligence. It's nobody was even paying attention. Nobody was minding the store. So that they want to keep out of public view. But also, counterterrorism is a sort of cloak and dagger and sometimes unseemly business. And that involves working with some very bad people. It can also involve sometimes letting not as bad people kind of skip town or get away with things because we're hoping that they'll give us the really bad guys later.
We have two congressmen, a Republican and a Democrat, coming out and saying they want all this stuff released. It's been over 10 years. Why not release this stuff now?
Well, it's not like we're going to make the Saudi relationship much worse.
I know.
We got that going for us.
Right.
Yeah, I think that they should release it. I think that enough time has passed. Unless
what do you think we'd find?
What do I think we'd find? I think you'd find out that there were probably deeper connections to Saudi government officials than people realize. This shouldn't be particularly shocking. I mean, the Pakistani ISI, which really runs Pakistan in a lot of ways, the military and the intelligence apparatus there are the government, they are the regime. They are arming and training Taliban. They've worked with the Haqqani network. They've worked with the people who are killing U.S. soldiers in Afghanistan, NATO soldiers in Afghanistan, going back now for over a decade. So if that's the oh, and by the way, bin Laden, I'm pretty sure they knew where he was, or at least somebody did, and decided not to tell us. Mm-hmm. So if that's the case in Pakistan, why would we assume that wouldn't be the case in Saudi? People use the term frenemy, and that makes it sound sort of silly, but it does give you sort of a sense of the flavor of it, which is they work with us when it's in their interest, but they're also willing to play a double game, and that can mean letting some very bad guys go.
No chance that this is... I mean, in 1999, I was on the air at WABC here in New York, and I said, blood, building, and bodies will be in the streets of this within, I think I said, the next 10 years, due to Osama bin Laden back in 1999. It's clear. You just read the guy and take him face value at what he told us he was going to do all of that. So they knew all of this stuff was coming. Whether or not they took it seriously enough, they obviously didn't. But there's a difference between dropping the ball and being complicit.
And hiding the ball.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. In this instance, I really think that it's a combination. And again, I mean, we're speaking about redaction, so by its very nature, we don't know, right? I mean,
right.
But if you're asking me what I think, why would something still be redacted to the 9/11 report? You would hope that the government would be doing it because of specific sources and methods, things that they need to practice.
Nope.
I don't think that's the case either. The much more likely one is real embarrassment, missing things that are just completely missing things that people should have gone to possibly gone to jail for, if not lost their jobs for. And then there's the complicity thing, or at least the we were willing to make excuses for. Look, we send a bunch of Saudis on a private plane. That's true.
Right.
Richard Clark signed off on that. We sent them out. Nobody should have left U.S. soil without having the FBI sit down with them and ask them as many questions as they wanted.
Well, we're doing that now. I mean, you saw what we saw with the Boston bombing. They sent Saudis home. They sent Saudi. I mean, that one guy that we talked about, not only did the First Lady visit him in the hospital, then he went later to visit the White House. Now, here's a guy whose record said he was a terrorist, and then all of a sudden it went away. And he's been treated like, I haven't gotten an invitation to the White House, have you?
Not recently. Actually, back in the day, I got a few, but not anymore.
So the Saudis will come. This guy will come. You know what we saw in that, and you know that the Saudis are being given you don't stop a Saudi at the airport. You don't stop them.
Well, their government complains very loudly about any pressure that we put on them, despite the fact that 15 of the 19 hijackers were from Saudi Arabia. There was always a sort of a public perception and the way that people, even inside of government, outside of government, who are experts on Saudi, speak about Saudi Arabia versus what they will say in private. I knew some very senior people who used to say that, let's remember that this is the heartland of Wahhabism. This is they used to refer to it sometimes as the heartland of hate when it comes to that exporting of jihad.